Well, it's a new year, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, and nothing's changed. Welcome to another episode of Mike Sennello Show. Of course, we want to get into the fireworks from Monday night, but first, just to let you know what's coming up. All folks who are interested, you guys should check out my Mike Reed's channel. I just finished up my series on Ludwig von Mises' The Anti-Capitalistic Mentality. I just finished reading this book, so I can't think of a more apropos book to do for the times, The Anti-Capitalist Mentality by Ludwig von Mises. We're going to be doing this as an interim read, and I'm kind of using that interim read as a way to collect your input, to find out what it is you would like for me to do. While I get this pulled up. Find out what it is you'd like to do. That's just on YouTube, or also on Odyssey, Mike Reed's. This is a channel that I've devoted to kind of just books and reading, really econ heavy, and there's some Star Wars in there too for those who aren't so serious about how they do their reading and aren't so much into the nonfiction as I am. So guys, do check out that channel because, like I said, I've already recorded 2 chapters of this book, and I'll be getting that uploaded later this week. Also, tomorrow night, from the fireworks from Monday night, I'm just not going to have time to get into Dr. Levin's presentation from Monday night. So you guys are going to have to bear with me because tomorrow night is where I'm going to be going over some of that stuff, and that's going to include an invitation for Dr. Levin to come on. And while we're doing that, we are going to go over this study. It's from the University of Freiburg, and it asks the question, should children be vaccinated against COVID-19? This was released in November of 2021, so it's very recent, and it goes over all kinds of, considerations you might want to make when it comes to your children and how you raise your children. So, hot stuff. We'll be going over that tomorrow night on YouTube. And, if we wind up losing the stream midstream, so be it. I'll do my best to record the show and field your questions during that show. And again, that is probably going to include an invitation for Dr. Levin, which I'll put out right now for Dr. Levin to come on to the show and engage with what I'll call a community of skeptics and ask and see if he's willing to answer some, we'll call them very tough questions that Susan Wojcicki over at YouTube may not really like. On Wednesday, big news, I'll be heading up to New Hampshire. I'll be traveling up to New Hampshire on Wednesday nights to get this secession papers, which have been drafted and are going to be brought to, hopefully, to the New Hampshire House floor. As far as I know, they are being presented to committee, and they are having a public hearing on Thursday. So hopefully we'll be able to have on my friend Elliot Axelman, who's from the Liberty Block. He lives up in New Hampshire. He's been following this. He's going to be one of the lead speakers when it comes to the secession. When it comes to the drafting of the secession, this isn't just a bill in New Hampshire. This is an amendment to the New Hampshire Constitution. So it's a permanent unilateral exit. And I think it's only about 2 or 3 sentences long. So Wednesday night, stay tuned. I'll have more info on that. Hopefully we'll be able to have Elliot on to talk about all that. And then Thursday during the day, hopefully we'll be able to get ourselves some press passes to get in there, to get into the New Hampshire legislature and cover the comment that takes place on the New Hampshire House floor. Really interesting stuff, and I hope it gets more coverage than it has been getting. So stay tuned, and more info to come on all of that. Back here in New Milford, I don't know which weekend it is, but it's either going to be Sunday, the next coming Sunday, or the Sunday after that. The Litchfield County Libertarians, so you guys have been mentioning potentially having a Libertarian on the 2023 Town Council ballot. If you want to see one, if you want to talk to us, if you want to meet with us, we meet Sundays. Our meetings are usually the last Sunday of each month at 2 p.m. at the Abbey. So anyone is welcome to join. It's a public meeting, so anyone who of any party affiliation who wants to talk to us, even if you want to just debate with us, come get something to eat and help out a local business over at the Abbey. I don't know exactly which weekend that is. I'll have to reach out to the party chair to make sure exactly which weekend that is, because on the 29th, which as I look over into my calendar is a Wednesday, I believe it's the 29th, will be the Libertarian State Caucus. So it'll probably still be, again, looking over. No, it's not a Wednesday. I have the wrong month. So on the 29th of January is going to be the Libertarian State Caucus, and that's going to be a Saturday. So we should still be able to have the Libertarian, the Litchfield Libertarian Party caucuses on the 30th, which means we'll probably have us either no meeting at all or just a standard meeting on the 23rd. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for all of that. that's what's coming up. So do pay attention. We've got a lot coming up on this channel. So if you guys want to reach out to me, if you want to reach out to this channel, that's how you guys can follow us. Again, if you're watching on YouTube too, we are broadcasting to Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, we're broadcasting on YouTube. If you prefer to switch platforms, you can. Link is in this video's description. And just like I always do, making things easy for everybody. And we will, of course, coming up on this show tonight, get to your live Q&A. So if you got questions, get comments, get them in now. Get them in before you forget them, and I will get to them as quickly as I possibly can. It's going to be kind of a jam-packed show, even though we're really only going to be talking about one topic. So before we get to that one topic, which is going to eat up most of our time, unfortunately, the fireworks we were kind of all expecting to happen on last Monday night didn't really happen. And we all know what they were in regards to. So since you guys thoroughly enjoyed this, let's see what Pete had to say. And this is November 22nd, I think it was. Whatever. And at the last town council meeting prior to this is what Pete said, and this is why we were expecting fireworks.
So I don't want anybody to take Walter, especially I don't want to take this personally, but I will not be in support of this because this has come up before. We've asked the courtesy of you talking, getting the nomination from the Democratic Town. And I know you haven't done it in the past, and obviously it's still not happening, but I would ask that you consider.
So Mary Jane, I will consider that, but it's the right of the mayor. I can choose
I know you
either
can.
party.
I know that.
And I think Walter would be a great choice, and we can vote on that now.
Okay, well, I will not be supporting
I'd like to
it.
just make one comment on that as well.
Absolutely.
And nothing personal against Walter Bear, who I adore and thank for all of his service. But I think that we have to remember this is a deliberative, all these councils are deliberative bodies.
Absolutely.
And in order to have the minority view represented, I do feel that the protocol should be abided.
And Hillary, I 100% agree with that, but I'm also waiting for an apology from the Democratic Town Committee for calling half of our residents Nazis. So I'm waiting to hear that apology.
Waiting for myself.
Am I going to get one?
You show me where I called you a Nazi.
Oh, I'll bring it to next meeting, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm here tonight as a New Milford citizen and as a U.S. Navy corpsman veteran.
who continues to serve as an officer of the American Legion, Ezra Woods, Post 31, New Milford. I watched the town council meeting of November 22nd at home due to recent diagnosis of cancer and COVID concern. My purpose tonight is to voice my disgust regarding a town council member's apparent disdain for veterans during the discussion of a crisis.
So it wouldn't be an episode of the Mike Sennello Show without technical difficulties. You guys probably just didn't hear basically any of that. So what I was pointing to before, in case I missed the audio on all of that, our no-show, our surprise no-show. We were expecting fireworks. We didn't get it. Mayor asked for an apology. He was going to present. He said that he was going to show the evidence for what he was claiming in the apology. Didn't need to, because there it is, the empty chair. Sitting in that empty chair could be somebody else who could have filled that seat, but nope. We kind of all saw it coming, or at least we should have seen it coming for sure. But that didn't prevent the veterans from showing up. The veterans were not a no-show. And again, this was they spoke not only in regards to what we've talked about endlessly on the show, which is the DTC's campaign strategy and the campaign literature, and campaign marketing strategy from 2021. And tonight, they not only spoke up to that, but they also spoke about her comments when it came to the social worker position, where in the social worker position, there was a preference in the job description for veterans who met all of the other qualifications. The obvious rationale for that being, there are qualifications that can't easily be put into writing and can't easily fit into a job description neatly. So you have banner headings, you have stand-ins for those qualifications that are difficult to describe and difficult to put in writing, such as veterans preferred. Bob Greco spoke at public comment and made that point clearly. And in fact, he did such a good job that we're going to listen to the whole speech. Folks, it's 3 minutes long. Bob puts this issue completely to bed. So, when Mary Jane made those comments, I said it, and I'm going to stand by it. Bold strategy there, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. Bob, have at it.
I'm here tonight as a New Milford citizen and as a U.S. Navy corpsman veteran who continues to serve as an officer of the American Legion, Ezra Woods, Post 31, New Milford. I watched the town council meeting of November 22nd at home due to recent diagnosis of cancer and COVID concern. My purpose tonight is to voice my disgust regarding a town council member's apparent disdain for veterans during the discussion of a crisis social worker position, and that member's request of removing veterans' preference from job listing. I stand before you this evening recently retired from my 50-year medical career that began at Great Lakes Naval Hospital as a corpsman. Then served at Philadelphia Naval Hospital, which during the Vietnam era was the Navy's East Coast Center for both psychiatric and amputee services. Then assigned to Marine Corps Training Depot, Parris Island, South Carolina, before deploying to Diego Garcia Indian Ocean in Thailand. Upon discharge, I attended the Yale Medical School PA program, graduated and hired at Danbury Hospital Emergency Department, working there for 5 years before accepting a position in primary care family practice, from where I retired this past October. I also contracted to the Department of Defense, performing post-deployment exams on returning soldiers. Of course, the town position requires the proper degree and academic credentials for a crisis position. My point is that a veteran with the required credentials plus the military experience of crisis management and treatment should be preferred. In the early 1960s, Dr. Eugene Stead at Duke Medical School recognized the training and experience of military corpsmen and medics and started a PA program that flourishes in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and Europe today. What could be better than hiring a veteran with a sound background in daily crisis management? Excuse me. We all remember the film Patton. Everyone remembers Patton striking the soldier with quote-unquote shell shock. But who remembers the reaction of the medical staff as they moved to protect the soldier? Modern-day term PTSD originated from the military term shell shock, and military medicine specializes in crisis management. I therefore request that veterans preferred remain in the job listing. Thank you.
Veterans here tonight, watching via the live feed behind me, request that the veterans' preference be included in all the town employment applications, and that the member Lundgren of the council make a formal apology to the Milford veterans, past, present, and future. Furthermore, the actions of the Democratic Town Committee chairman, the same person, Mary Jane Lundgren, who signed off on the mayoral campaign mailer, somehow insinuating that many of the citizens, which include veterans of New Milford, were somehow followers of the Nazi Party, I find totally disgusting and request that she be censored or reprimanded for this unpatriotic behavior of an elected official of this town.
So Paul's not really wrong here, and we've gone over this like 100 times. We've already shown our receipts. We don't need to go over this anymore. Folks, I know, more technical difficulties. It wouldn't be a show without technical difficulties. They should be resolved. I keep hitting buttons I shouldn't be pressing, and I'm not going to hit those buttons I shouldn't be pressing anymore. We're just going to do this the hard way and leave the microphones on the entire time. So folks know Paul Murphy was there to add on to what I talked about. The veterans weren't there just to talk about what Bob was talking about, but, you know, Mary Jane Lundgren disagrees with Bob's and disagrees with the veterans, apparently, unless she wants to come out and publicly say that she completely changes her mind in this position. You know, again, bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it pays off. And honestly, right now, the way that it would reflect on her is in November of 2023. Paul Murphy mentioned censure. I'm not exactly sure what type of censure methods that could actually be employed here, because there are no subcommittees and she doesn't hold any actual offices on town council. There is a means, I suppose, by which a councilman could be removed from office through a I don't know if the town council can even do it, but there is a way to do it, and it would start with a referral to the ethics commission. And as far as I can tell, although she has elicited really bad opinions and really dumb takes, it isn't really an unethical position as it relates to the position she's holding. So that's going to have to pan itself out in November of 2023. And she's going to be there until she decides not to be there. And if she continues to not show up, well, then take that as it will. Take that empty chair to mean what it's going to mean, and whatever you think it's going to mean. The conversation, of course, from there moves very quickly on to the ARPA funds, because the person that was in question, that was there to address all of these issues, wasn't there. And now, if I'm to play the charitable take, if I'm to pay the naively charitable take, and you guys are going to rail on me for being this naive, but it's entirely possible that she was just sick and couldn't make it. And if she was sick, God bless her, hopefully she gets better, and we can see her at the next town council meeting, where I'm absolutely certain the veterans are going to come right back and say the exact same thing until they get what they're looking from her, which is an apology apology to the veterans for her take on that position, and again to the community in general for her being the chair of the committee that released the campaign literature from 2021 from the DTC. So moving the conversation on to the ARPA funds, which happened later in the night. Yeah, there was a lot that happened in between. There's not really all that much to actually discuss. And we're going to get to Dr. Levin's presentation and some COVID stuff tomorrow night, so guys, stay tuned. The mayor let us know that, unfortunately, with the library, the mayor made note of the cancellation of the soft opening that was supposed to be potentially scheduled for January. It's not going to happen, and they're just going to have a plain full opening, which has been delayed all the way to June. Due to, the contractor says, due to supply chain and staffing issues. Translation, let's go, Brandon. And you know, for those people who just don't understand what's going on here and don't understand what I say when I say let's go, Brandon, you know, again, maybe what you guys should do is go ahead and, like I said, like I plugged before, check out my Mike Reed's channel where we do a ton of reading of literature on econ. Maybe you guys need the econ lesson, so go ahead and do check that channel out. It's just Mike Reed's, all one word, on YouTube. Should be easy enough to find. There was a brief mention during the town council meeting of Hartford basically screwing us on redistricting in New Milford, and it appears that there's no remedy other than to blow up the Secretary of State's phone. So if you guys can look up her phone number, you know, the video is out. The video is available on YouTube with great video, great audio quality from whoever was producing all of that. So if you guys want to watch a town council meeting, you can see what's happened in between. Again, Dr. Levitt's continued COVID presentations are something we're going to talk about tomorrow. And yes, I am hearing from you guys that are considering homeschooling. I'm with you guys. I get it. And this is why I said from the get-go, the ARPA funds should just go towards homeschool vouchers. This is nothing more than a just stealing from the pocket of taxpayers. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And, you know, the only way the only conscionable thing I can think of to do with this money is to get it back into taxpayers' pockets as directly as possible. This is the method I chose. And now that we're in winter and now that we're all seeing all of the flaws of public schooling coming to fruition, mostly because of COVID. I mean, you guys all ridiculed me, but I mean, now where do you guys stand? You know, and I mean, when it comes to a voucher, it's not that it would be mandatory that people homeschool. It would be if you're considering homeschooling and you want to get your kid out of public schooling because you're just sick of what's been going on with the public schooling system, vouchers would be a way of providing an economic, let's call it windfall, that would allow you to more easily make that decision. It would allow the money to follow the student, to follow the kid, the child. And throughout that education, it would have allowed it to stay in the home, where we've talked about this on this channel a million times. Again, we've shown the receipts on my YouTube channel. You can go look up on my YouTube channel, Captain Phoenix. You can just type into the search bar, the truth about public spending in public schools, all kinds of data, all kinds of citations about how the fact that the best way to spend this money is to give it to give it to the parents, to allow these parents to make these decisions, right? And I've heard people who have said, I'm using public school as basically government funded daycare, which stinks, but that's the nature and that's reality of the situation. And I'm hearing from all of you guys who are saying, you know, I can't make that decision because regardless of the money, I just can't take the time off from work. I just can't provide daycare for my kids. Let's say I'm a single mom, and whatever those vouchers would be, and they would still probably be in the tens of thousands of dollars area. You know, maybe I can afford a day a week. Maybe I can afford afternoons, but I can't afford to be at home all day, every day with my kids for 5 days. So, like, I feel like we could really use something like a cooperative consortium. Like if we could get together, get all of the people together who are considering homeschooling or who have homeschooled, or the people who considered homeschooling but wound up going to private schools way outside of town and are paying a fortune for all of that. Maybe there's a way that everybody could just get together, share some phone numbers, and say, you know, Frank can do Monday, Sally can do Tuesday and Friday, and then, you know, Cassandra can do the afternoons on Wednesday and Thursday, and Lindsay can do the mornings on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And you end up getting, say, 4 or 5 kids together so that they're actually experiencing these social environments. However, you're doing it from a home. You're doing it from the home. And if you don't want to be in public schooling, that's one way that could be got around this. Now, again, I've been getting your messages on all this. If I got to be the one that takes the lead and takes the charge and puts that group together, I guess that's fine. But that's where I think this should head. And again, I was the one who said that they should be used right from the get-go as a way to just get back. The ARPA funds should just go right back to the taxpayers' pockets. And this is the only way legally I can conceive of a way of doing this. Because the rationale would be that what COVID revealed, if nothing else, is the weaknesses of public schooling and the weaknesses of basically monopolistic control over the education of children, where you don't have exposure to market influences, and therefore you don't have any need to respond to market influences. And that's why you're seeing this explosion, which we've talked about on this channel, which we've showed our receipts for, the absolute explosion in this state of homeschooling. So, you know, if you're considering homeschooling, keep telling me, keep reaching out to me, keep telling me what you're running into and what headwinds you're facing in all of that process. Maybe we can find out a solution. But Again, the ARPA funds are still there. There is still almost $1.5 million. In fact, I can give you the exact dollar amount. It's $1,480,627.18. And that's because, as I've been told many times, I have been doing my homework, and I can prove it. You guys saw these links. I'm sure you guys have seen the links that have been going around that I shared to everybody, and that I shared to the pages that I shared for a reason, right? They're pages that are focused on politics, or which it seems to be very happy to accept political posts. And of course, the New Milford, Connecticut page with 17,000 members, and is a public page where they seem to be very happy to discuss politics on that page. That's why I've been sharing it. And you guys have seen probably all of this stuff before. And, here's what we can do. I'm going to share the link to the downloadable version. You can actually download this spreadsheet right now, print it out from home, and you can see everything that's going on there. Let me get this brought up. It is this one. And you can scroll down and it prints out nicely. There's a nice page break in all of this. If you download it and print it out, it's got page numbers on it, and it shows you right up at the top there. $7,932,955.41 is what we started off with. What's been approved at town meetings is $5,622,656.37. What's left to be approved at town meetings is $2,310,299.04. But what's been approved at town council in awaiting a town meeting is $829,671.86. For those of you who want to follow along, I'll go ahead and share that link. Here's the downloadable version. I'll put that in Facebook, and I'll put that in YouTube. There's the downloadable version. I've shared the printable version. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and share the printable version for you guys too, so you guys can just go ahead and so if you download the link I just sent and print it out from home, it'll come out nicely. But if you don't want to download it, if you want to just go ahead and click on the link and hit print, you can do that now. I'm sharing that link now, so you guys can check that out. So yeah, I've already done my homework. Honestly, I pulled this straight from the official minutes from 2 town meetings, and I confirmed with tape, and then I just basically formatted. Formatting took like 45 minutes, and the rest of this took 15 minutes. So honestly, this was not difficult to put together with the already existing information and with what had already been posted in terms of documentation. So you guys go ahead and check that out. Hold my feet to the fire and all that. Challenge issued, right? And you guys can see that I've done all that. Again, at the top, right at the top, there's $829,671.86 voted on and approved at last week's town council meeting, which of course includes $22,147, which was basically just a clerical error for the fire departments. I'm going to talk about that real quick. Sean Delaney was the one who actually presented. Sean Delaney to the fire departments in town. Sean Delaney should just do all your presentations. Not because he's somebody I like necessarily, not because I feel like he's got some special expertise. I've seen him present. I've seen everybody else present. He just seems to be the best presenter. He just seems to be the best when it comes to public speaking and making your guys' case for you. The one thing that he missed, and it was a 2-word phrase. The 2 words he did not say that I think would have helped his case more than anything else are clerical error, because it's basically all we're talking about with this $22,000. The fire departments have asked for an awful lot. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars that they've asked for and been approved for, and there was just some clerical errors that happened and got lost in the paperwork throughout all of that. And we're going to come back to that. But the main point of contention was based on, and let me pull this up for you guys again, and we'll get right to the bottom. If we go to the funds that were approved at the last town council meeting, and let's see if I can blow this up. Can I? Can I zoom? Zoom to, let's do 150%. There we go. Maybe you guys can see that a little bit easier now, right? So those are the 5 expenditures that were approved at town council on Monday night. So you can see the $22,147 for Waterwitch Hose Company, which is a clerical error to an adjustment due to a clerical error from their previous request. There's 2 items in there: the Lover's Leap Bridge and the Boardman Bridge. $150,000 for the Lover's Leap Bridge and $125,000 for the Boardman Bridge. What that money is earmarked for is, for all intents and purposes, engineering reports to let us know what it's going to take to I haven't switched over. Here we go. There, now you guys can follow along. you guys can see the $150,000 for Lover's Leap and the $125,000 for the Boardman Bridge. What this money is being earmarked for is to produce engineering reports that are going to tell us what it's going to take and what it's going to cost to either tear down the bridges completely or to conduct whatever repairs are necessary for those bridges at this time. Let's see. I think Pete here we go. I think we're on. Yeah. And Pete actually explained everything pretty clearly at that meeting. So this is Pete explaining exactly what those funds are for and what the idea is behind using the ARPA funds for those two bridges.
Lover's Leap, $150,000, as we talked about before. And speaking with Jeannie Garvey, our state representative, she had explained, former state representative, she explained to me that Lover's Leap, the bridge, the maintenance is required by the town. So as I told this council before, I went and take a look, and lo and behold, that is true. I've asked Jack and his team to go and take a look at what required maintenance we would have to do on that bridge. And this would be the beginning, the seed money for that maintenance on that bridge.
So it's creating a fund, just kind of like the track.
Yep,
and the track.
same would be said for
Right.
Boardman Bridge.
Yep.
That bridge is in disrepair, as we all know, and we have to make a decision what we're going to do with that bridge. Because if you just leave it the way that it is, you're going to fall in the river,
Yeah, we have.
and then you're going to have all sorts of environmental issues.
So we either have to fix it or
Correct.
move it.
This
Or
is the study
disassemble.
that tells us how much
Correct.
to fix it or what
Right.
it costs to improve.
Correct.
So in the case of the Boardman Bridge, the thing is actually ready to fall apart. And that's what they're talking about here. And if it winds up in the river, it's not going to cost us a lot just to clean it up. It's going to cost us a lot because we're going to be in endless litigation over all that. Probably not only from DEEP, but from the EPA and from whatever groups are going to be suing the town as a result of that. So I'm not sure how this doesn't fall under infrastructure. And for folks at home that are watching and saw that and said, why on earth is the Lover's Leap Bridge our business? Why on earth is it our responsibility to maintain a bridge inside a state park? I honestly don't know. And I would honestly say that maybe it's worth reaching out to the attorneys to say, what is it going to take for us? What's involved with us reaching out to the state and beginning a negotiation to renegotiate that process moving forward? Maybe that's where that money honestly should be spent for that in that case, is figuring out what it's going to take to renegotiate that. I'm with you. I have no idea why that's our problem, but it is our problem, and we've got to do something about that. Pete presents the case for using the ARPA funds for that. As far as the appropriateness of the fund, of the appropriation, of the expenditure, I'm not sure how that doesn't fall under infrastructure, since it's a bridge. Like, I realize that in both cases, they're basically footbridges at this point, but what's the difference between a bridge used for cars that has a footbridge attached to it, Veterans Bridge, and a bridge that's just the footbridge side of things? If we're using it to get people from one side of a river to another, isn't a bridge a bridge a bridge a bridge? So, not only does it qualify under infrastructure, it also qualifies under deferred revenue, because this is obviously a revenue source that has been deferred over the years or would otherwise be deferred in order to cover that expense. Now, there's certain qualifiers to allow for deferred revenue, for the deferred revenue exemption to kick in, but from what Randy Davila has told us repeatedly, it already has kicked in. We've already qualified for that deferred revenue exemption. And the fireworks really start with Hillary Ram. And Hillary Ram's questioning of the appropriateness. Before we get into all of this, it's possible that Hillary's watching. She's watched before. I love when everybody joins in. So Hillary, if you're watching, thanks for watching. So in charity, to take this charitably, so people know, she did wind up voting in favor of both of these expenditures. So, take all of this with a grain of salt, but this is Hillary Ram questioning the appropriateness, and Mayor responds.
It's not that I don't want to do it, it's just that this to me is part of infrastructure, part of what we should have been maintaining all along. So how can it suddenly be right upon us? We have these funds for specific reasons, and these to me just don't fall in that, in that wheelhouse.
So under the ARPA funds, we have the availability through the revenue, deferred revenue. it qualifies because we can do the infrastructure programs. Now, as I said before, the council, you have a decision to make. Right? You can say no to that, then we can put it in the budget. And then when the budget goes to 4 or 5%, and the taxpayers tell you no, so what you've then done is by fixing this bridge, you've helped every New Milford resident.
Pretty straightforward, right? Pretty cut and dry, right? Like, conversation basically over, right? Either we're spending the ARPA funds on this, or we're spending, taxpayer dollars on this. Now, if you're going to make the libertarian argument that in both cases you're spending taxpayer dollars, then the response to that is, of course, then it should go to the taxpayer's pocket. So if you're going to be like me and you're going to make the libertarian argument, love to hear it. Love to hear that argument. But otherwise, pretty straightforward, right? Well, Hillary Ram says it's about balancing the budget, which, again, bold strategy there, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
But it's about balancing the budget, right? So it's something has to give here, there to fix the dam, to fix the bridges, to fix the roads. So we don't tax higher. We look at the budget and we figure out the budget.
$275,000.
So I'm not
So
saying that
Hillary,
we
just
cost-
a question, because
Yeah.
I know when you do look at your budget here,
Mm-hmm.
so you're taking a look at $1.2 million. Right now, we're going to be expending $5 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? $5 million of capital that we have to do, not want to do, have to do. So when you do that $5 million, are you going to ask yourself, do you want to tax the taxpayer of New Milford an additional $5 million?
And I mean, Pete kind of makes the obvious point. If we're talking about budgetable expenses, then you're talking about adding $5 million in taxes in the end, which, because we're a little over $100 million on our annual budget, is going to wind up resulting in a little over 4% increase, which is what he was talking about before, a 4% increase in the mill rate in absolute terms, not in relative terms. So if it was, say, in absolute terms, so if it was, say, 25, if the mill rate was 2.5 cents on the dollar, it would go up, 4 percentage points, which is kind of huge. Sorry, it would go up 4 relative percentages. I got that wrong. Excuse me. I got that wrong. But our average annual budget increase overall has been nowhere near that in terms of what's been actually approved at referendum. And generally speaking, voters have been wildly against that. And quite honestly, it'd probably be more than that, because if voters are just not going to vote for all those things, if you want to get those things done, then what you'll have to do is bond that money. So instead of it being $5 million, it's going to be $5 million plus the interest that we're going to have to pay over time towards those bonds. And again, a lot of people are just going to say, listen, we don't have the money, like they have been for years. And they'll say, you know what? We're going to do what every smart homeowner does when they come into a giant capital expenditure like this. If you just don't have the money, push it aside and hope for a windfall, which is what the library did. And it's just like what everybody else at home does. And this is what we're running into. We're running into a windfall. Again, if you're going to make the argument, the libertarian argument that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, happy to have you join the Libertarian Party, Hillary. Like, happy to have you agree with free markets and the fact that government should be extremely limited and should not be interfering with mutually consensual transactions. But this is the sort of conversation that everybody has even in the home. Like right now, over the weekend, I was looking at a Sennheiser MKH 416. It's a shotgun mic. It's the best one on the market. You guys know what I do for a living. I've been trying to get my hands on one of these for a long time. Unfortunately, the mic normally retails for $1,000. And I don't have it. I just don't have it, right? Like, I don't have $1,000 to spend on that thing, right? Like, if I have $1,000 to spend, it's going to be on something that's significantly more of a priority, right? But if I come across a situation where I can get it way, way, way cheaper, I may have $700. Over the weekend, I was watching one that I accidentally lost a bid on that sold for $655 on eBay, and it was basically brand new. I could have gotten it for $665 ostensibly, because the minimum bid was $10 over final. I could have gotten it. And I just forgot about it. And when I got in the office this morning, I had the opportunity to put in a bid at the last possible second and get it for roughly a third of its price reduced. I just don't have the money. So you put it off. And that's obviously what's going on here. But, of course, Ram pivots, and here she goes. Have fun.
That's not my question. It's why are we here?
Yes, it
at
was.
This place where these things are have come to this place where they have never been in the budget. We've never heard about the dam. We've never heard about
Lover's
this.
Leap we didn't know was our problem.
That's the only point I'm raising, is that I'm having a hard time using these funds to fix things that have been going wrong for quite a while that should have been in the budgets, right? The dam.
Wait.
Wait is right? This is a completely separate question. And Hillary, are you really making the argument of sins of the father? That like these people screwed up, so forget it, we're not paying for it? These people screwed up in the past, we have a problem to solve, so just kick the can down the road? Again, there is an argument for kick the can down the road, right? And if unless you're going to make the libertarian argument that this money should just go into the taxpayers' pockets in the first place, based on principle, based on actual principle, in this case, libertarian principle, because you're returning what is effectively stolen money to the taxpayers, then you can make those budgetary considerations, right? Then the taxpayers, by virtue of having that money in their pockets, might have that money. But first you have to argue that this is robbing Peter to pay Paul. And this is not the argument that's being made here at all, right? At first it was, I have my own pet projects, and this is not one of the pet projects that I'm into. Therefore, now it's, why weren't these expenditures in previous budgets in the first place denied, right? Like, because we didn't have the money, and now we have a windfall. And we have the opportunity to take this money and put that towards things that we've been putting off until we have the money. I mean, when you have a roof at your home too, it's not like you're going to replace, 1 or 2 shingles at a time every week, right? First things first, you're going to do that all at once. And you're not going to do it every year. You're going to do it every 20 years, every 30 years, whatever it winds up being, however, depending on what your shingles are rated for and how your roof is built, right? Maybe you have to do it actually sooner because you have such a shallow pitch and you're not using asphalt shingles. Let's say you're using cedar shake, right? I don't know who uses cedar shake today. Maybe on a historical building, you'd replace with cedar shake and therefore it would need to be replaced sooner rather than later or something along those lines. But you do it all at once, right? And when the time comes, it's not at exactly 20 years. It's one of these things where it's like, all right, 20 years, you really need to consider getting a new roof. Right now, I don't have the money, so maybe I'll have the money in 24 years. And if you don't have the money to set it aside in the first place, if you don't have the money to, say, set aside a certain amount and budget for that thing that's coming up, then you don't have the money. Which means if you were to do this through bonding, you still don't have the money, right? Because what we would have to do then is set aside tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in the budget, which would be a budgetary expense for these sorts of projects. And that's just flatly not how any of this has ever been done, and for obvious reason. Because if we start doing that, then we wind up spending way, way, way more in the budget. It's basically, if we don't have the money to bond it in the first place, then we don't have the money to set aside and save up for the thing, right? There is such a thing as we just don't have the money, right? And again, if you're going to make the argument that we should have allotments be set aside, A, that's basically bonding, and B, where is that money? Where is that money? Cosgroves, of course, says everything I just said. There's a reason that I'm not a councilman and that these people are. That's the ones that actually got elected and weren't just winners by default, right? Cosgrove says, makes all of its point, says the obvious in under 5 seconds.
Yeah.
We've known it. We now have an opportunity to do something.
And it's been
about it
reviewed
without taxing
for
the
remediation.
taxpayer.
There it is. We've known about these expenses, and we now have the money. Of course, Katie Francis and Chris Cosgrove go on to expand upon that in a little bit more detail than those 5 seconds.
So Hillary, because I know, I don't know how long you lived here, I'm sorry. But it was reviewed and a recommendation was made by an engineer for remediation, right?
Yeah.
But there was no money to be had for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's now time to fish or cut bait with it.
Yeah, the can's been kicked down the road. We now have an opportunity.
But the Lover's Leap Bridge was, I guess, sort of a who knew kind of thing.
Okay.
And Bass, of course, makes the obvious point that you guys could. Bass is not there to make this decision for you. You guys could just raise the taxes. Ram's response is, I wouldn't increase the taxes.
But I mean, the council at your discretion, you can choose to pull that out and put it in the budget and increase the taxes of the taxpayer.
I wouldn't increase the
That's
taxes. I would balance
entirely-
the budget somewhere else.
That's entirely up to.
I don't know
That's
where
not-
we would find
That's
that
easier
much
said than
money,
done.
though, Mayor.
I think it is easier said than done.
Sure. $275,000. Love to hear where that's coming from, Hillary. Right? Like we've talked about you coming on. You know, the invitation is still out there. You've heard my schedule, you know. So ball's in your court. If you want to come on the show, just name a date, name a time, and let's do it. Let's have this conversation, because you know what? If you can come up with $275,000 out of the municipal side of the budget, I'd love to hear precisely where that is. Remember, Mayor Bass has had back-to-back flat budgets. Do you know how unbelievably hard that is to do? You know how rare that's been? We actually had a decrease in the mill rate in this past year. And I believe it was the second one in a row, which never, ever, ever happens. And it's not just political will, right? Like, you really have to dig. This takes actual work to find a way to get these numbers to stay that low consistently, right? By the way, I would love to hear if she'd hold that same standard to the Board of Education. But getting back to what I was saying, like, if you're going to argue that the reason that Pete Bass was able to keep those budgets flat and the mill rates down is because of grand list growth, well, then you're going to have to admit that under Pete Bass, there's been meaningful increases in grand list growth. That we've had such meaningful growth in the grand list that we could actually, for the first time in decades, possibly ever. Mayor Bass actually mentioned exactly when it was that the last time this happened, and it's a long, long time. It may have been, it hasn't happened so long as we've been keeping records of this sort of thing, and therefore it goes back X number of decades. It's been a very, very long time since we've had that situation pan out, and we're experiencing it right now. So I would love to hear how you're going to come up with $275,000 in cost savings in the budget. And quite frankly, if that's what you're going to show me, if you can show me that you can actually do that, then let's just do that. Then let's just use the ARPA funds anyways, and then save the taxpayers' money moving forward. If you can actually do that, I'd love to see how it gets done. And don't tell me that Groenback was able to do that, because all of his budgets, all of his expenditures wound up going way over budget, and you wound up getting pitchforks and torches at the door of the mayor, at the mayor's doorstep, because there were services the town that was expected to provide, like maintaining the roads, that were just not getting done. So, you know, if you can find that $275,000, all right, let's hear it. But again, let's hold your feet to the fire. Is this how you treat the Board of Education budget, Hillary? Or is it just yet another never-ending pour money into it situation? I threw out years ago, and I've thrown it out several times since, the $100 quadrillion Board of Education budget. I propose a $100 quadrillion Board of Education budget, and I've yet to get a response. And no, a response of, Mike, that's ridiculous, isn't a response, because why? If it's ridiculous, why is it ridiculous? Tell me why. Give me the exact why. Give me the limiting principle here, right? And again, this is all part of what I've been talking about. And folks know, Hillary and I have actually been having a private back and forth to try to get this scheduled. Again, I don't know how on earth this is easier said than done, but Hillary, let's talk about it. Let's hear how this is actually the case. This isn't, by the way, this isn't DC, right? We're not spending $80,000 on a pocket watch, right? We're not spending $80,000 on a truck tire. Right? We're not doing that. This isn't DC. This is in Milford, right? And, you know, again, finally, would you say the same thing for the Board of Education, that it's easier said than done? Because I can, because we've had huge reductions in enrollment. We shut down an entire school. How on earth it is that we're somehow 33% more than that now. We've experienced a total of 33% increase in the Board of Education and New Milford Public School side of the budget since peak enrollment. And again, the enrollment study said over time it's going to continue on a downward trend. So yeah, I mean, if you want to be consistent in principle, I'd love to hear how you would apply these consistent principles to the Board of Education. Now, again, principle of charity here. You guys have accused me of extending it way too far, and I'm going to continue to extend it way too far here with Hillary. Ram seems to be on board. You guys saw the last 2 clips from her. She seems to be on board, and in the end, she voted in favor of these expenses. I'm not saying that she should have voted in favor of these expenses, but perhaps what that means, what that is a reflection of, is her being convinced by the other members of the town council that is, and perhaps that's someone. Perhaps that's her way of saying, okay, I made my case. I'm wrong. I'll concede the point. And in the end, again, she voted in favor of these 2 expenditures. But there was someone who didn't. And this line of questioning leads us to, and Hillary's line of questioning leads us where we are today. And oh my God, I hope to God Irene's watching. I hope to God Irene's watching and remembers all the times that she told me to do your homework. And that's going to be the theme of the entirety of the rest of this show. Apparently, there are some councilmen who haven't done their homework. So go ahead, Hillary. Oh, come on, Hillary. I have no sense of the overall picture. Well, I mean, I do. And now you do. Again, I talked about this at the beginning of the show. This took me under an hour to put together. 45 minutes of that at least was formatting. This is just straight copy and paste from the town meetings. And checking everything, of course, against the tape, because you can do that. You can go onto YouTube and just type in town of New Milford and boom, all those pictures show up. And the thing is that when you do that, like, not only do I put all of the agendas in the video descriptions, right? Like, they're extremely straightforward, right? Usually I put all of the links I can to inform the public of what's going on. And now we have lower thirds and title screens. So if you want to go back and watch the tape, it's much easier to follow along. It's much easier to say the conversation's about the ARPA funds, because the lower third and the bottom says ARPA funds. We have title screens to go from one meeting to the next, so you know which meeting is going on. And when and if I get time, on these videos, I'm trying to get to a situation where I can put in timestamps, so you can just click on the timestamp and boom, ARPA funds. Boom, library. Boom, fire department. Boom, the finance department, right? Boom, COVID conversation, COVID presentation from Dr. Jeremy Levin. Boom, presentation from our health department, right? When I have time, I'm doing that. It's going to be only every few months because it's how long it takes to put all that together. And I just don't have time to sit down over the course of a weekend and spend an entire day doing something along those lines. But the point is, like, you don't have a sense of the overall picture. You guys are elected officials. It is not Pete Bass's job to be Santa Claus, sit you on his lap and hold your hand through your duties as elected officials. Naomi passingly agrees with all of this, of course, Katie Francis shuts him up pretty quickly, obviously as frustrated as any reasonable person would be by saying, again, the obvious. Clip 12. Then what's the issue? You have actually made one. Katie made one. You made one. I made one. So what are we doing here? What are we complaining about? Again, the list is in the agenda, which anyone can go to. It's even in the description of the town council video. So you can just click the link as you're rewatching the tape. In fact, here we go. Here, I'll go ahead and share this. This is the agenda from the last town meeting You'll have to bear with me just as I bring things over here. This is the agenda from the last town meeting. If you guys want to follow along, we can do this. Here we go. No sound on the clips. We still having those problems? Sorry, folks. I'm just advanced audio properties. Make sure I got... Okay, so this is the last audio clip. Video clip, I mean. Hold on. We have to go over to this real quick, and then we'll come back here. You guys didn't hear audio from the last one. Here
I'd
you go.
love to see a list that's just gets added on every
Well,
time we add
every
something to it.
meeting, we have it in front of us, and I'm sorry if you haven't kept, excuse me. You can make a list, I make a list.
actually made.
So again, then what are we complaining about here? If you guys have all made a list, then what are we complaining about here? Now, I just shared a link in this in the comment section for both of these videos. It's to the agenda from the last town meeting, which is what I copied all of this from. In fact, do I have that? Do I have that? Yeah, I do. Here we go. There it is. There's a town meeting agenda. And let me pull that window up. So all you have to do is scroll through here, copy and paste that into an Excel spreadsheet if that's how you'd like. Whatever the formatting is that you prefer, you can do that. It's there. It
I'd
was
love
there.
to see a list that's just gets added.
And that's what we're talking about here. That's all I did. That's all I did. Was do that. If the complaint is over formatting because you don't like the formatting, if your complaint is about the formatting not being in a particular branded format, give me a break. Give me a break, right? I mean, where does this all end? Of course, it all ends with Santa Claus coming to town and Pete reads through the list.
November 22nd, I will again summarize to the public and to our council what we've done. So far we've approved $200,000 for a domestic violence and family advocate. We've approved for New Milford Ambulance, capital, $336,163.12. For the personnel EMS manager, $180,000.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. Like, you guys get the point. He runs through the whole thing, and the response from Alexander Thomas is, well...
Excuse me, that's not
So-
really what we're looking for. Can you tell me, if we vote on this, how much money's left to spend?
Sure.
Tonight's list?
But there's a list of other things that we have.
I know there is, but I want it in writing in one master list, and I want the people of New Milford to be able to see the whole list. This is how much money we started with. This is what we've approved so far. This is what left to spend.
Subtract the numbers. It's one subtraction. Subtract the numbers that were presented there from the other numbers. Like, it's one number. You have, like, they really are. They really are asking for the Santa Claus treatment. And no apologies. You have to lift a finger in informing yourself. You have to at least lift a finger. And this goes for not just town councilmen. This goes for all voters. And this is what I've said for many years, and I stand by it. I would prefer you go out and get a library card than you go out and get a voter registration card. I don't care about increasing voter turnout. Uninformed votes are worse than no votes, and I stand by that. I stand by that. You have to at least be able to lift a finger. And after all that, this is what Pete Bass is doing right there in that meeting. Until you interrupted him. Go, Pete. This is 15.
I want to give it to the public because you had just asked that we didn't know. So I'm going to read it into the minutes.
Again.
I'm also going to say it to the public that is listening. I'm also going to put it out on the website so that everybody can see it.
Perfect.
And then Pete continues to list everything. Excuse me. I need to get the right clip out. Pete continues to list. Here. Pete continues to list.
So our
everything.
child care youth counselors are $225,000. Child care assistants, $100,000. These are ones we're talking about today. New Milford Senior Citizens Advisory Board, $75,000.
No, we don't need to go through the whole thing. He goes out. Again, the video is on YouTube. You can look at it. You can go to the meeting minutes for the town meeting agenda. You can copy and paste it from there. And of course, it's not until this afternoon after I've posted the accounting that you guys saw on Facebook. You guys have all seen the link that I posted. And when I say after, I mean minutes after I shared the downloadable printable versions on like half a dozen New Milford pages, it's revealed that this is all in bad faith. And I have screenshots for all of this. Because, well, there it is. Apparently, Hillary's either done this, and here, I'll share this. No, I don't need to share this, but you guys can find this. This is on Hillary's, looks like her political page, her political campaign page. Let me get that pulled up for everybody. And you know what we'll do too? We'll zoom in. So you guys can actually read this. It's New Milford received this number. These numbers are a little bit different from mine because I pulled them straight from the things that was actually voted on by you, the voting public, the voting electorate at the town meeting as far as approval for expenditures. And she's got a spreadsheet that she's put together. And it's pretty close. It's pretty close to what I have. I'd say mine's more accurate because I'm going by in legalese what is in the town meeting agenda, right? But apparently she's done that, and she shared that. She shared that, as far as I can tell. The only page that I can see that she shared that to is New Milford Positive Vibes. So she's shared that there too. So you can go to the Milford Positive Vibes page, a private Facebook page, and you can see this post, which is shared there. Of course, the comment sections on all these are hilarious, and every question that's raised, do your homework. Every question that's raised, especially by our favorite woman here in town, Irene. Irene asks a bunch of questions. All of these questions have been answered in clear and plain English by the people who are making these presentations. If you did apparently like Hillary did and took notes, right? All of these questions have already been answered. And you would know that if you did your homework. So either Hillary's been doing this all along, which is much more probable than what I'm about to suggest, or she managed to copy and paste my information in a matter of minutes. In both cases, either the information was already readily available and you already were served by the already existing information, or my copy and paste of what was already available was so easy to transfer from B to C that you have no complaints. Transitive property, right? If it was incredibly easy for me to get from A to B, right? If it was incredibly easy for me to make that copy, and there's no difference between you from getting from A to C, right? In terms of what's involved there. If it's easy to get from A to B and easy to get from B to C, transitive property, it's easy to get from A to C. If I was served well by what was already available, and you were able to in minutes do that, I'm not suggesting that's what she did. I'm suggesting that that these complaints are being raised in obvious bad faith because she's already been able to produce all of that. And again, I showed you, it's not in the format that I use. She has her own preferred format, which is fine. It's not the town's duty to cater to the whim of all 30,000 people when it comes to the formatting that it's being presented in. Presented in a legible manner, they did. Right? And remember, if the complaint, in both cases, if the complaint is really about formatting, you've just kind of proved you have no case because you were able to easily do your own formatting. Again, either you were able to do this all along, or my reformatting was so easy to reformat transitive property that you were able to do this all along just like everyone else. And quite frankly, this is kind of a cell phone, kind of a gigantic cell phone. And again, everything in the comment section on these posts is hilarious because it's all, there's somebody praising her for taking charge and leading the charge in all of this. Okay. All right. I'd love to see here. Remember what I did. So she shared a screenshot. Right? Remember what I did. I shared a link to where you could download the actual spreadsheet, to where you have a printable format, right? Printable link and a downloadable link. And if you want to continue to add on to that moving forward, you can. You can. In the most popular software there is, Microsoft Excel, when it comes to spreadsheets. So, again, comment section, I guess my response would be do your homework. Katie Francis accuses Hillary in the meantime of, well, you know what? Let's let Katie make your accusation. By the way, in terms of how Hillary is going about her decision making in all of this process.
Department or for the police department.
Why is that so hard though?
But I'm not, just a minute, let me finish. As if the amount will make the decision for you and you'll say, well, the fire department doesn't need, I have my own list.
Okay.
I don't.
That's exactly what she's doing. That's exactly what she's doing. We can pull this all up. We can zoom in. She's got her percentages right here. Percentage allotted to the police department, hardship grants. Why would you keep track of the relative amount allotted to these departments if you didn't care about the relative amount and you only cared about the absolute amount? Right? We have a fixed absolute amount to dole out. I'm not sure why the department itself would have some sort of priority over another department, especially if we're going to be itemizing the expenditures. I don't know where this preferential treatment of departments comes from. Although, of course, I wonder how she would treat the Board of Education when it comes to all of this. The main point, though, here is that, yes, you do have to lift a finger. You do have to actually pay attention. You do have to watch the YouTube videos if you're not going to be at these meetings. They're out there, and you can go to them. And of course, after all of this, the voting comes along, and again, charity here. If we're going to be playing the charity game, Hillary votes in favor of all of these expenditures that were discussed on that night. And the expenditures were approved unanimously were approved unanimously for the ambulance expenditures and the $500,000 towards COVID-19. Surprise. And Alexander Thomas was the lone wolf vote against in the case of the Lover's Leap Bridge and the Boardman Bridge, and also voted against the $22,147 clerical error from the fire departments. Now, when it comes to the Lover's Leap Bridge and Boardman Bridge, I mean, you guys have seen what she was talking about. You guys saw what Hillary was talking about. Ostensibly, that's what the complaint is here. Ostensibly, we've already gone over what the complaints are. But I don't know but the only information we have in terms of her complaints and why she would have voted against it, a $22,000 out of $7.9 million, and out of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been allotted to the fire departments, a $22,000 clerical error. This is all we got, folks.
So were any of these items on the previous budgets?
Were any of these
items on this list requested in previous regular budgets?
No.
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 And if we didn't have the AARP monies available to us, would you have put any of these requests in on your future budget?
Your answer is yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's all we got. So you be the judge. I would love to know what the thinking is here. And how many times have we said that so far? So how many times have we said that and knowing we're not even going to get an answer to that question, let alone a good one? So yeah, Hillary, I'd love to have you on. Genuinely looking forward to it. And yes, I absolutely stand by my previous statements about the New Milford DTC being just cartoonishly out of touch. You guys have seen the video. I've shown the receipts. Mary Jane Lundgren evidenced it by not showing up. Like I could not possibly ask for a better example of being out of touch than this. And that's what we got on Monday night's meeting. So, and as far as Hillary and Alexandra, just like watch the tape. Just watch a tape when I say things like the New Milford DTC is out of touch. I stand by it. Double down. But again, cordial invitation extended. It's going to be continued to be extended. Theme of tonight's show, do your homework. And if I can do it, so can you. So we're going to get your questions and your comments in just a bit. Hopefully it's not too much. Mike, I can't hear anything. Technical difficulties and endlessly. Yeah, because, I'm doing the stream. I'm doing the content. I'm doing everything here. And it's just not an episode of the Mike Sennello Show without technical difficulties. So tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about COVID with Dr. Levin. So stay tuned for all of that. Don't forget to check out my channel, Mike Reads, content coming later this week on Ludwig von Mises's The Anti-Capitalistic Mentality. I'm also doing a piece on 1984, which is going to be coming out hopefully in another week or two. It's taken me a while to edit it, so stay tuned for that on Mike's Reads. And of course, as I mentioned, later in this week, I'm going to be headed up to New Hampshire to cover these secession talks. So now that we've gotten through all of that, love to hear your Q&A. Let me get that all brought up, and let me get zoomed out so I can actually read some of all this. More no sound. Awesome. Mike, no sound when you were doing clips. That was 14 minutes ago. I wonder if any of these actually came through. So we're going to do a, I feel like I got that all corrected. It was headed towards monitor and output. So I don't know what to tell folks. Run the video of Pat Erickson. Run the video of Hillary speaking. I wonder which one that is. I can probably pull up my notes and get that figured out. Was it the I wouldn't increase the taxes, or I have no sense of the overall picture? So that would be either 10 or 11. So here's some more Hillary. You guys liked her so much. Let's listen to her again.
But I mean, the council at your discretion, you can choose to pull that out and put it in the budget and increase the taxes of the taxpayer.
I wouldn't increase the
That's
taxes.
entirely
I would balance the budget somewhere else.
That's entirely up to.
I don't know where we would find that much money, though, Mayor.
I think it is easier said than done.
And so the 11th clip was, what was the 11th clip? The 11th clip was, I have no sense of the overall picture. I think we already took care of this, but let's see.
Many times for an accounting of what we have spent.
So folks, this is, I guess, the one that everybody missed out on.
So this gets to my point of wanting a line item. I've asked for this list many times for an accounting of what we have spent and allocated so that we can have a big picture. We can understand, the fire department got $800,000. The police department got this. I have no sense of the overall picture. So when I see these, because I'm only seeing little pieces, I've asked for the big picture, I think, we have killed kids that are hurting. We have people that can't pay heat. We have people that are hungry. No, I don't care about the bridge. You see what I mean? So this is what I'm trying to do.
And that's what I was talking about. Like, you have no sense of the overall picture. You have no sense of the overall picture. Again, you're an elected official, and you have no sense of the overall picture. And I went over in great detail how easy it was for me to put this all together, and then we showed how easy it was for her to put this all together. So clearly, this is coming in from at least some element of bad faith. Folks, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that clip again. I'm not sure why it was reverting. So my software was reverting to monitor only rather than actually outputting the sound for you guys. So let's see if I have anything else. The public hearing allows for the public to attend and can comment. That's true. Anytime that there is a public hearing, the whole point of a public hearing is so that people can go in and have the town council be nothing but ears to the public. In fact, the rules regarding public hearings are actually significantly less stringent than actual proper town council meetings, which means that there's a lot of discretion from whoever's in charge of the public hearing to allow for public comment. You could have public comment last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes in a public hearing. That's why these people didn't get elected. They got appointed by the charter. Yeah, I mean, well, there is one way to resolve that issue. If you get a Libertarian in that empty chair, then you don't have a Democrat from the DTC, at least, in that empty chair. Or if you have the reasonable Democrats in this town take over the DTC, then you have a reasonable Democrat in that chair. Let's see, Joe. Jody says, although I agree with you that homework should be done, don't you think it would be prudent to have those totals presented before the vote? But they are. And that was the point of what I was showing there. That you can see in the agendas going into these meetings that everything's right on there. And perhaps not, it would be helpful to have a running tally. But again, as far as the councilmen are concerned, that's kind of not, that it isn't the job. At some point you do have to lift a finger. And to me, telling somebody to push the negative sign, telling somebody to go that button right there on their calculator, that to me seems like all I'm doing is quite literally lifting a finger, right? So I kind of don't have any sympathy for that complaint. Also, she's a council person, and I think has a right to ask information be presented in a digestible format and with proper, accurate tools and context. Apparently, she already had that, and so did I. Because like I said, when I put out that list, all I did was basically just take that line, type it in. That line, type it in. That line, type it in. And then deal with some formatting issues to make it a little bit easier for people to work with, which I was willing to do. And PPAS, if you're watching PPAS, if you see this video and you want to use, if you think that the numbers from those documents that I shared are reasonable, are reasonably accurate, and you want to just steal them, I release all of those documents into the public domain. So, Pete, if you want to just download my spreadsheet, put your name on it, pump it out onto the town's website, feel free to do that. Feel free to do that. Paul, if the citizens had any faith in these people, they would have won the elections over the past 3 terms. Personally, they have lost in 2 other elected positions in the past. Yeah, again, this is why I call them winners by default. If it wasn't for minority representation rules, there wouldn't be any Democrats on the town council. And again, it's not because of Democrats in New Milford, right? It's because of the New Milford DTC. And this is what I keep saying about them being out of touch. Knowing they have no power, they just want to sit and argue and hear themselves talk. No comments by the public at the last meeting. Not sure what that's in reference to. So let's go back to Facebook and see what people are also saying. No volume, no volume, no volume. Awesome. Nick Puder would be a great, Pat Erickson, Nick Puder would be a great Democratic candidate. He is extremely bright and he does his homework. He's unaffiliated, but I could totally see, knowing where his politics align, I could totally see him signing up to run as a Democrat. And again, Pat Erickson is 1,000% right. That's a name. We can name names of Democrats in this town that he's not a Democrat, but I could totally see him running as a Democrat. I could totally see him signing up as a Democrat, registering as a Democrat. And again, he would have my vote in a heartbeat. The Hitas, Gary Hita, Lisa Hita. I voted for Lisa Hita. I would vote for Gary Hita. I worked with Gary Hita on the town facilities utilization committee. Happily would vote for Gary. Happily would vote for Liba. Happily would vote for a lot of Democrats in this town, but they're not the ones that are getting nominated into these positions. Pat Erickson just confirming that was the clip she wanted to see. Pat, you've been here through a lot of these shows, so special thanks to Pat. And since we've gotten through everything tonight, special thanks to everybody who's stayed with me through the night. We're going to get back to our regular scheduled time next Sunday. It was my dad's birthday yesterday, and it just ate up too much of the day, and I just didn't have time to get everything prepared. But again, we'll be live tomorrow night. Hopefully we'll be live Wednesday night. Hopefully we'll be live Thursday. And we're going to return, again, back to our regular scheduling at Walter Bear. Yes, Pop Murphy, Walter Bear. I would have voted for Walter Bear. We're going to be back to our regular scheduling and regular timing next week. That's Sunday at 7 p.m. And so stay tuned for all of that. And again, thanks everyone sincerely for staying tuned. And we'll see you in the next one. Good night, folks.